HR Famous is brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today. HR Famous is also brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies, named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider. Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com.
What's up, HR Famous? This is JLee, Girl Scout Troop 33171, troop leader, also co-host of the pod. My friends Chris Dunn, Tim Sackett are here with me. Were either of you guys Boy Scouts, Chris? Were you? You have a Boy Scout quality of
I was. Thank you for noticing that quality, JLee. I was a Cub Scout and a highly accomplished Cub Scout who opted not to go on to the Boy Scouts.
Hey, but I was also a Cub Scout, and I was a latchkey kid because my parents were divorced. And so I think, my mom got me into Cub Scouts just so I would have like some other male figures in my life at the time. I never, when you have to like walk to like this Cub Scout, like meeting and like all the other boys have their dads there, it was more of a slap in the face than it was like, do you want to have a therapy session real quick? I don't.
It's very cute. The idea of a Cub Scout, these young ones. And by the way, in our most recent Girl Scout troop meeting, we had 2 dads join in lieu of the moms with their daughters. And I like that, like leaning in. We had both genders of parents in the mix, and it was totally awesome. But we are not here to talk about Girl Scouts. That is a whole episode just of its own that we shall do at some point, because I am in management leading a troop and there's just so much to talk about.
Paramilitary. I love it.
It is. I deleted an app on my phone, and I'm curious if you guys still have it on your phone. And I wanted to talk about our employment brand friends out there trying to make a go at Clubhouse. And why? And are we doing something with it? So, Tim, I know you got onto Clubhouse. Do you still have it on your phone? And what happened when you got on it?
I'm sure it's there. But I did it the one time, and I will tell you, like, for me, Clubhouse ended up being like, the people on social media that are always on social media, and you're just like, do you have an effing job, or like, what the hell is going on? People probably say that about me, but mine's are all robots. So just FYI. Anyways, so when you get on Clubhouse, it's all those social media people that don't have jobs that are always on there, but now they're talking, and I'm like, oh, like I want to like vomit because now they're all raising their hands and trying to get their question in, and a lot of times it's like they're like, oh, okay, hey Jimmy, come on in, ask the question, and it's not really a question. It's Jimmy wants to talk for 5 minutes about crypto or some other stupid thing. Like nobody, and these people just want to be heard, like they're desperate to be heard. To me, and I jumped around to some, like before I started mine. I was invited on one, but before I got on the one I was supposed to be on, I jumped into a bunch of rooms just to kind of get the vibe. And then they were all exactly the same. It was awful.
So Chris, if some of your Kinetics clients were coming to you or are coming to you for recruitment marketing smarts, and they say like, should we be on Clubhouse? Like, do we need to get on it? Like, what are you guys telling them?
I would tell them, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't we get down to the offer stage in a really tough hiring environment? And why don't you record a 60-second video welcoming them to the company that we can like give them when you make the offer? That's the best impact you could have from like new media or any type of media, and you spending time on it. Because I don't see Clubhouse now. For like full disclosure, I never downloaded the app.
I invited you. I think you never accepted my invite.
Yeah, people, that's interesting you say that, JLee, because I think I got probably 25 like invites, which is part of the strategy, right? They wanted people to say, hey, I've got an invite. Would you like it? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Mm.
So I got a lot of those invites. The most interesting thing about Clubhouse for me was, I guess, one of the investors, Mark Andreessen, was doing stuff within, I think, and you guys know more about it, about how it works than I do, was doing stuff, was holding a session, and journalists who get paid to follow him could not get in the Clubhouse room. And they lost their minds, like sending out nasty tweets, et cetera, which I thought was hilarious. Like, because, you know, without going into, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in play about freedom of speech right now. And I think if Andreessen wants to keep like a Washington Post journalist out, he probably ought to. But back to your point, JLee, I haven't used it. I don't think it's a great use of time. What do you think?
Well, you know what's also hilarious is like we think Clubhouse is so like, wow, what a new concept. Just like the idea of like, you know, Zoom free Fridays as a new concept. We're just taking video out of the equation. And why does everyone think it's so like ingenious? Like we're just going back in time. These are conference calls that we're having.
There is a piece of this that is somewhat like on the digital side because of pandemic. When we would go to conferences, you and I and KD and maybe 6 or 7 other people would sit at some stupid dinner or party or whatever. And we'd have like, we'd talk shop, right? And we all kind of missed those conversations. I mean, some of us missed those conversations or missed getting drunk at conferences, one or the other. And so there's so Clubhouse kind of has that aspect where you can have this conversation and it's not like it's all recorded and then people can listen to it after, right? It happens in the time it happens and then it goes away. So I do think like Torrin Ellis, who's a friend of the show, and he does the podcast Crazy and the King for those who want to check him out. Torrin's a great like DE&I speaker and recruitment strategist. And like he's done a bunch of them where I think he feels like you can have some of those conversations you wouldn't necessarily want recorded or like on a webcast or something like that. You could have some real back and forth, real conversation about DE&I and with the people that are right there at that moment. And then bam, it goes away, you know? And so if you really want to change hearts and minds around a concept, is that the way to do it? I don't know. Like, I do think that concept, you know, works in that way, but I don't know. Again, I just think you'd have to have the right followers. And I think you have to be like a superstar influencer or celebrity to get as many people out there to really share the message you want to share, you know?
You know what I do think is interesting and like the idea of being an influencer in a platform where it's your voice only. Like there's something kind of democratizing about that. Like, you know, you're not on TikTok or Instagram showing your mug and your whatever, like it's about your voice and your thoughts. So that's kind of interesting, but I don't have enough bandwidth to pay attention to just that and listen. It's too much. So
I think if you were really passionate about a certain specific topic, like you say, oh, I'm into, you know, like crypto and specifically I'm into this certain coin, you could go find other people that were like that. And then you could probably learn more about it. I always think that there's avenues for that it's important, but otherwise it's very specific, right? And micro.
I don't know why I invited Chris thinking he would join because he never downloaded TikTok. So I don't know why I thought maybe he'll download Clubhouse and we can have like a Clubhouse chat like over there. Like on Clubhouse.
JLee, I guess I'm just not like an early adopter. Like I don't feel bah humbug.
I feel like you were before, like on other social platforms. You definitely are early.
I'm interested. Like I'm interested in the concept, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's probably just a function of time.
Hey, I'll give Katie credit. Like he's doing like the Instagram stories where he actually writes stuff on the stories. Like I don't even do that. Like I still don't do, I think I've done like 2 Instagram stories my entire life. I check out everybody else's stories, but I'm just like, it just seems like work.
That is true. Katie's on the IG stories.
Hey, by the way, I will say this. My 17-year-old like has given me props before for my IG stories, which by the way, for the uninitiated include a lot of like basketball. So just get ready for that.
Or Gary Vee stuff. Yeah.
Or Gary Vee, right. Yeah.
Okay. Next topic, you guys, the vaccinations, like out there, like everyone's getting vaccinated. Well, maybe not everyone's getting vaccinated. Actually, I take that back. Not everyone is eligible at this point, basically, to get vaccinated, but not everyone is getting vaccinated. And so I was curious, just like, what are you guys hearing, seeing, and what are our point of views when it comes to like encouraging people in the workplace to get vaccinated? Like, what works, what doesn't? We've had an interesting, dialogue in our workplace and around like who should be the voice of it, the face of it, like how hard do we want to go on encouraging vaccinations? And so I want to chat about this. And Chris, I'm curious also, like from the perspective of like, clients that you guys might have, what you guys are doing at Kinetics yourselves, like what are we going to do in terms of encouraging vaccinations? Is this a thing? Should we keep encouraging it?
Well, I think obviously we should encourage it, right? It's part of the overall like kind of healthcare scene and like managing the pandemic and trying to get to whatever a post-COVID world is. So I think we have to encourage it, like as a society. Now, full disclosure, I have not been vaccinated yet. And
we'll get to herd immunity. We'll all surround you.
Here's the reason I haven't. So Mrs. Dunn has begun that process. I've got one son who's already had COVID, and I've got one son in college who probably has had COVID. So he has not been vaccinated yet. So I've got one with the antibodies. I've got a spouse who started it. And my spouse actually like set up her appointment, said, do you want to set it up? I said, I can't do that day and go with you, but I'll do it. And right around the time that I was getting ready to do it, and both of you probably know more about this than I do, Johnson & Johnson and the Astra, like whatever in Europe, Johnson & Johnson came out with the blood clotting thing.
Yep.
And it made me pause a second to say, to your point, JLee, hey, we're close to herd immunity here. And we're in the summer and the rates where I'm at are super low right now. Let me give this a week or two to see what's going on with the clotting stuff. Because
you have a family history of blood clotting, Katie?
I do.
That's important.
Yeah, honestly, Tim, I would have done the same thing kind of based on my mindset and who I am, even if that wouldn't have been the case, for sure. But it's a good point in the back of my mind.
Because my sister has that history as well. And she had gotten hers before. And then when that came out, she started to freak out. She was just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? And you're like, just calm down.
Yeah.
You didn't have one of them that's the problem.
Yeah.
But.
And it's like, I think the J&J thing, not to like, well, I'm naming one, right? But it's like 1 in a million. And I don't think there have been any others. So, but that did make me pause a little bit and say, you know what, I can get by. And JLee, real quick, I think what that means is we have to encourage it. We don't have any clients currently that I'm aware of who have mandated it, but we have to encourage it. We got to keep the communication going. But as we've seen, JLee, back to you, like this is plateauing and even going the other way a little bit because all of the easy like conversions, if you will, are already done.
As an aside, a joke that I saw out there that I really like is all the people who had the blood clot issues with J&J were women. And so let's just let the men have J&J and us ladies will take the other vaccination.
The Pfizer.
Pfizer, Moderna. You guys just take the J&J and just see what happens with that. But no, it's something that's been like a topic of debate that I've been hearing is like, who should be the voice of like endorsing vaccinations? Like if you're a company and you're wanting to communicate to your people, tell me.
Morgan Freeman. Always, if you need a voice, it's always Morgan Freeman. That's the answer to the question for the voice.
James Earl Jones. Yeah.
No, but like for real though, so Morgan Freeman would be amazing, of course. But like some of what I've heard is some dialogue around like, do you want to hear from your CEO, like, this, like an executive saying, get your vaccine? Or is it important to hear from like someone who might be your colleague or a medical professional? And so it's just kind of interesting thinking about like the communications angle of like, what's the message and who do you want to hear from when it comes to like, hey, we want you to get your vaccine?
JLee, we did from an employment branding perspective, we pivoted on some of the services we provided and did a vaccination campaign with video. For a client, their choice was all peers, like in the workforce, right? It's like you want to see people like you getting vaccinated. And I think that's consistent, Tim. Don't know what you've seen. I think that's consistent with what's happening in a lot of places.
Yeah, there's been a lot of studies around that. And I think number one, people are first going to take their own doctor's recommendation, right? So somebody that they rely on for their own medical advice, and then it goes to family, friends, peers is the next. The last that the ones that were ranked the lowest are actually political figures, and probably executives where they think like there's some something to be gained, right? Like an executive comes out and you all need to have your vaccines. It's so important. And you just want us to make sure we show up for work kind of thing. Right. So you don't want to have that kind of vested interest kind of issue at play when somebody's believing that. Jay, didn't they just announce in the last couple of weeks about the $500 tax rebate for organizations for employees that get vaccinated? You can actually get income or corporate taxes like reduced.
Well, so, to your point around like that's, I think, where there's like a tricky situation for companies as well, right? Like you don't want it to be seen as like we're encouraging you or mandating you or trying to get you to get your vaccine because of, some kind of incentive that we might receive.
Well, but this was about giving people time off, right? Especially like 8 hours paid so that you can get the shot, but also if you have some after effects, and usually those are over in 24 hours. Like you will actually be paid, right? You're not gonna miss time. So I think that was more of that. Like let's try to take away every excuse of our employees that says, well, I would get it except, I just can't miss a day at work. And the three of us think that and go, nah, that seems like everybody can miss a day at work. But like if you're living hour to hour, check to check, like you can't miss a day at work, Yeah. And I think that's a huge population in our country, of which a lot probably haven't been vaccinated.
By the way, I still contend that vaccination should be distributed via Amazon Prime delivery trucks because just the most efficient way to get it out there would be to load the trucks up and then just go door to door.
Hey, by the way, I love the mobile, like the bookmobile concepts that we're seeing in some of the cities as well. Because I do think you get into the neighborhood and you set up shop for a day or two or whatever and let people just walk on down and get the shot. Because if they see their neighbors going and standing in line and getting that shot, they're going to be more likely as well. But when you have to go and sit in a giant like stadium or get in line for 10 hours at a stadium, like I just don't know how many people, if you're on the fence of getting the shot, you're not going to go through that.
But those make it. But to be fair, Tim, those days are gone now, right? Like over the last couple of weeks, this is wide open and you see the plateau happen, you see a drop. So there's inventory. Like people are shutting down mass sites right now because they don't want to pay the labor associated with running those. And they're going to smaller sites. Like I was like when Angela got hers, and this was, I think, CVS based, like there was every time like imaginable, like 1 or 2 days out. I think.
Oh no, every grocery store that has a pharmacy in our area has basically like, just come on, walking in, just walk in.
Yeah.
Like, you can come anytime.
JLee, I think it's probably not going to be enough. Like wherever this goes from this point forward, the messaging's got to change. And I don't know what that messaging is, right? But if where are we at, JLee? Are we like, we're taping this in late April. Are we at like 35 to 40% total in America have had at least one shot?
Welcome to the Hire Her podcast, where women in talent call all the shots. We know, another recruiting podcast, just what the industry needs. Okay, but hear us out. You ever spend hours sourcing that perfect candidate, but they end up ghosting you harder than your Hinge date? Or finally, you get that hiring manager feedback, only for them to, of course, say, can we see more candidates? Lame, right? But let's talk about what's really lame in the industry. How is it that 65% of recruiters are brilliant women, yet most of the decision makers look like a convention for middle-aged dudes named Brad?
That's where we come in. Hire Her isn't just another podcast about hiring trends you already heard like 50 times this week. We're here to elevate women in talent, share their career journeys, and make sure they take the lead. Because let's face it, if recruiting is the backbone of every company, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? So whether you're a recruiter, a talent leader, or just someone trying to swim through the sausage fest of TA leadership, we got you, girl. Welcome to Hire Her, the recruiting podcast where women's voices aren't just heard, but they're leading the conversation.
So subscribe now, because middle management Brad sure as hell isn't going to do it for you.
I think over 50% now, just over 50.
Have had one shot.
Yeah.
One shot.
And getting ready to go back for their second one. So the easy money is gone. and the same messaging won't work. And I think this is true both for America as a whole and also in companies where it's really important. Maybe the type of business, same messaging won't work because, you can play like everybody's circumstance is different. I would tell you that I have doctor friends and the doctors are just a normal cross section of the rest of society. I had a doctor tell me Sunday night. It's like, are you still vaccine free? I gave him that look. Are you still vaccine free? He's like, absolutely. It's like, you going to get it? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, that's what my brother-in-law said about he's a doctor and at his hospital. It's not that all healthcare professionals are 100% on board, but I'm telling you, I've got the new strategy for messaging. I think this will particularly work for HRU Tech and Tim. So the incentive is not about like time off, I'm going to pay you or whatever. Like it should be the hug angle, right? Like get your vaccination. We can finally like bring it in. We can hug again. And like, you're going to hug people and stab them in the back with the vaccine? Is that
like, come here. It's safe. I have them vaccinated, and then bam, right in the back with the vaccine.
I think that's what's going to happen for me. I'm going to be like carrying around my card, being like, "Look, I got it. Let's hug." Because I miss people.
I think organizationally, I think the medical facilities around your area or whatever have to get where they're going to your location, right? If you run a manufacturing facility, you have 500 employees, and you find out, hey, we have 50% that are vaccinated, 50% not. You need a nurse or somebody, whatever tech that can do a shot that sits in your location for a couple of days. And just in the cafeteria, right at the doorway where they walk in and just say, look, it's free. Do you want it? Because if you eliminate all friction, you're gonna get that other 25%. I think that will actually take it. That doesn't really care. They're like, whatever. If somebody would come up and jam it in me, yeah, I'll take it. But I'm not going to go out of my way to get that shot. So we now have to
pressure of seeing like your colleagues and all of that, and you just get it done.
Peer pressure works both ways, though. That's why new messaging is required. I do like Tim. You have to make it as simple as possible, but the peer pressure works both ways.
We could put it in water, put it in food.
Hey,
I love
marijuana. By the way, JLee, little like pandemic trivia for you. Do you know what caused Tim Sackett to be quarantined for the first time during the pandemic? It was a visit to Birmingham. And we
dirty Birmingham.
My son got it, and he was quarantined even after he returned to Detroit just to make sure.
My wife, made me. That was just because my son was finishing up his sports season, and she didn't want to make sure that I didn't screw up the entire team or something by showing up. So
I should use that excuse, like, Bobby J, you get away from me for 2 weeks. Go quarantine yourself. Not that we ever go anywhere, but if I just need some quiet time, I should quarantine myself. Go take care of the kids.
You quarantine yourself and say, look, I'm going to quarantine myself at the Ritz-Carlton.
JLee, you know what I want to do, and I won't do this, so don't answer this question, okay? Because I'm being your agent here a little bit. I want to ask you the hotel property that you would put Bobby J into for the quarantine period. Don't answer the question. Don't answer the question because there's a lot embedded in that.
Oh, I love my husband. I would give him at least a courtyard.
Okay. He's definitely going Select Plus.
No. He's a simple guy. He doesn't need a lot. Okay. Next topic. So you guys, a few episodes ago, Chris, you were talking about you're going to have some people in the office, some people virtual, what meetings are going to be like. And I love it because I wanted to talk about this further because I think that we're going to be reading and seeing more and more as offices open back up, the notion of hybrid work. And I swear to you, I think people just think like, oh, hybrid work, that's like, we've been doing virtual for the past year. And so this is not going to be a change. We know how to do this. And I do not think it's the same thing. Hybrid work is something different than virtual. So I'm going to read you guys a definition. I want to talk a little bit about what do we need to think about as we move into potential hybrid work model environment. So hybrid, here's the scoop with hybrid, just to make it clear for everyone. Some offices in the office, some associates in the office, some people remote. Executives and leaders could be in person. They could be remote. There is an expectation though that like people come into the office for a certain percentage of the time, but like the baseline is that like people need to be able to engage and collaborate, whether they're in person or remote. Like you got to truly be able to let people blend and go like between home and work. And it's a thing. It's supposed to be fluid. And I actually worry this is going to be a cluster. So let's start with like the meetings piece, because I think that one of the things I think we're taking for granted is like, what is it going to take for people to flawlessly be able to like have hybrid meetings like in this new age? Like there's technology, but like what else? Like Chris, you talked about the owl, and I have to like look up what the owl is, but like it's not just like technology. Like what else are we going to have to be thinking about in this hybrid environment? It's not just flip a switch, let's go.
Yeah, Jay, I think, one of the things I think about is having an employee go, well, I'm either more efficient, more effective in the office, or I'm more efficient, more effective at home because of my setup, which means now I have to have two of the exact same setups no matter where I go, which just doubled my cost, right? And we think of hybrid as reducing cost, which we might be able to reduce some square footage of office space. But like when you have to double up everybody's like, workstation facility, whatever they have, to me, I think that's part of that nightmare, because so many people went hybrid and they said, hey, you got your work stuff. This is great. You got your workstation. And then they went home, and either they took their workstation home or they left it, and they're just, and then they're just going back and forth, but they haven't doubled it up yet. And I think long term, people are going to go, well, no, I want to be able to work the same no matter where I'm at.
Yeah, like if you're, let's say, like a graphic designer or something where you need like that monster like monitor and like a big tower, like are you now going to give those people two of everything, something at home and something in office? I don't think people are thinking about that.
They're not, yeah.
I think it's called a laptop. Is it not, Tim?
Like it is, but there's more than that, right? Especially with like recruiters working on 3 screens. Like you're not going to carry 3 screens 2 days to the office or whenever you come in. You're going to carry your laptop and want to be able to plug in and have your environment just right there.
Yeah, I think, there'll be, in terms of like work setup and workstation setup for people that are hybrid back and forth. I mean, I guess there will be like allowances made by the biggest companies, but that's not coming to the SMB like anytime soon, or not to a significant percentage of the SMB. So it's a tough thing. In a lot of ways, this is a trade-off. Like we had our annual meetings, Jessica, a couple of weeks ago by the time this airs, and we did a session on remote work, just like how to survive it, et cetera, et cetera. I facilitated it, and I clearly don't have all the answers. So we just gave the group some questions and did breakout rooms and let them come back with like their solutions, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a very like personal thing. But one thing we did ask that I thought was really interesting, you've got the stress of all of the challenges with working remotely versus working in the office and having that commute. Which one would you choose? Almost all of them automatically said, I don't want the commute. I don't want to come into the office. Now, that's kind of one or the other in terms of what we're talking about. It really doesn't address kind of the hybrid situation.
So I will tell you where I'm at in Lansing. Like I have like a 15-minute drive to work, but it's all highway, and like the traffic has never come back to what it was pre-pandemic. Like it's completely different in the morning. It's almost like you're driving in on a Saturday. And I don't think it'll ever come back the way it was, which I mean, Katie's laughing because obviously Atlanta is a complete nightmare, all the time.
It's already like bad. It's already
always
like a
has,
nightmare.
Always will be traffic in Atlanta. So but like, what does the role of like a leader become in like some of this? Because I feel like, I really worry about like one of the things we were talking about in that last episode around this idea of like, people are going to laugh, but I truly think this idea of proximity bias is going to be a thing. Like you're just going to favor the people who are closest to you. And so like, I really wonder about like, what's the role of a leader to make sure that because I don't think hybrid is going away, but like you have to be really intentional as a leader to like not like fall into proximity bias. And so I've just been thinking lately around like, what do leaders need to do to make sure that they're really like fostering this?
JLee, let me ask you a question. And I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I would challenge it a little bit. If people have the choice to work where they want to work. And let's assume, and I don't know this to be true, by the way, but let's assume their ability to perform, or at the very least, their ability to influence is better because they're in the office. Is that really bias, or is that just the reality of influence and performance in an organization?
So I want to say that's just the reality of an organization, but I guess I'm trying to challenge my own like assumptions and perspective as we like go back into this different environment to figure out like, how do I like break that? Because, you know, before the pandemic, all of my team was in person, and then post pandemic, I have a different team now, and 2 people will definitely not be like in person. One's in a different country, one's in a different state. And I just happened to, you know, things, the chips landed where they did with people not being in our headquarters area. And so like, I've got to figure out even for myself, like, how do I really make sure that like I'm inclusive and the proximity thing isn't an issue? Because they're really good people.
Would you like some time with Christian Dunn, life coach?
Yes, I would. I mean, that's what
would that be good for you?
Life coach I'm looking for. I'm looking for some answers.
So like the Christian Dunn life coach platform, JLee would say that you as a leader, and I'm being serious here now, Christian Dunn life coach, we would say, or we, you know, that's the practice and the people I have working for me. We would say Christian Dunn Life Coach, LLC, would say that you have to be intentful and purposeful about how you connect those people and how you always like include them in whatever way you can. Digitally, Zoom, you're going to have to work harder than you work with the people that are in the office. I think I would also tell you that you're going to have to work to find the equivalent of like walk by, walk in time with those people. I believe personally, it's not another Zoom call, by the way. I think in today's world with people that have been away for a year, the new way to connect with people is picking up the phone and talking to them voice to voice rather than forcing them on Zoom and forcing them to get perfect. I think that's the new kind of informal, personable space. And then the other thing I would say is you probably, and I can see Tim queuing up here, I would tell you that you probably need to provide some training. I would say your organization, not you as a leader, but you have to do some influence training to talk to the people that aren't in the office and tell them that they have a piece of this as well. It's not okay for them to go away and think that it's all your job or the organization's job to treat them the same and make sure they get the same outcomes. They have to work at it. They have to reach out to you. They have to send you things that you didn't expect that are informal and informational. They've got to find a way to connect with the people that are on the team and the people that control their career, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done, but those are like some of the thoughts that I come up with first.
Yeah, you know, I do think there's a couple of things. One is I worry not as much as the leader, because I think we can train leaders and actually make them at least think about it, right? Which is the first step to that, you know, the kind of the bias recognition. But I worry about all those people, and Katie mentioned this in the past, where, you know, everybody, you know, 90% of your workforce thinks they're in the top 10%. And so those people who are remote are going to think they're high performers, even though they might not be, right? I mean, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but like, they're going to think then, oh, well, you just don't see me as a top performer because I'm not in front of you. Well, no, I can prove this, right, through data or whatever. Completely different side of this, which is I think the better organizations will actually budget for their leaders to go visit individuals where they're at, but also have individuals visit the home office or the leader wherever they're at, even if both of those remote, right? How do we find a common place to go and actually spend some face-to-face time? I do think that's super important. Katie loves my Applebee's stories, but you know, 4 times a year, they paid for us to come to the home office when we were all remote and spent time, right, and team building and everything else. And it was hugely important, I think, from a culture standpoint and just from a leadership standpoint.
I think JLee, let me tell you one more thing, and then I'll throw it back to you. Sorry. I think the other thing, when you are in a remote environment, whether it's just a remote part of hybrid or you're fully remote, you know what can't happen? Christian Dunn life coach coming in for people who are remote trying to influence. You can't let like notes come in and not acknowledge that you received them and you're working on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to be really good from a comms perspective to provide service digitally that breeds confidence that, hey, you know what? I don't need JLee like next door to me because I hear from her every time I have a need. I get an acknowledgement that I need her to work on something or need her help with something rather than it going in the void and she's managing it and I don't hear.
Yeah.
Jay, do you want me to read the text message I've sent to Katie that he hasn't responded to?
Yes.
Is there one? I'm looking now.
Well, yes. When we were texting in the morning, and I guess in Birmingham, y'all hadn't woken up yet.
That's reading time, JLee. That's personal development time. And how dare you, my friend? Like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but what is coming out of this conversation though is like, I think like with virtual or like whether it's all remote, but now as people start moving towards like this hybrid environment, like it's not just about like the tools that we need to like make sure people are equipped with. Like there's a ton around like how we communicate, how we influence. And it's like the softer things that I think like we're all going to have to figure out how to do differently and better. And like, even in my head, I'm thinking about things like, you know, before I might've said, well, the person's like, you know, remote or it's somewhere else. And so they're not going to be in the meeting. So we're just not going to include them. But like now I need to probably just bring my laptop to every meeting regardless. And like, just be ready to pop people up onto a screen and have them sit at a chair that's where they're not physically there, but my laptop is there and they can be present. And so I don't know, it's just going to be interesting. We've got behavioral changes we're going to all have to figure out and embrace. Another pivot. I wanted to end on something. People can't see us, but like I have been snacking on
two hot
chicks and 2 chicks beef jerky. And like I actually was at a meeting yesterday and I was with 3 other women. All of them said they've never eaten beef jerky and they were completely like dumbfounded that I like beef jerky so much. And I was like, people, like I carry beef jerky with me like in my purse, like everywhere I go. Like I have snacks like beef sticks, beef jerky everywhere.
Great
and
snack.
So I question for you, like, do your wives not eat beef jerky? Am I like a weirdo where like I like beef jerky? Is that weird?
So I'll go first. My wife, Mrs. Dunn, does not eat beef jerky, but I am familiar with other female leaders and females in general that do eat beef jerky. I was on the road one time with Dawn Burke.
Oh, yes.
And we were doing leadership training and we stopped by whatever the deal was, like Speedway. And I buy JLee. We're getting ready to get on the road and travel a couple of hours. And we're traveling in the same car. And I buy a piece of beef jerky. Oh, I'm sorry. I buy like one of those $10 bags, like the big, I don't know, like how many ounces that is. And we get in the car and I like look at Dawn. I say, do you want a piece? And she'll laugh at this story, but it's totally true. So she says, I'd love a piece, which means she eats beef jerky. So she proceeds to pick a piece out and it's like chain linked and she ends up pulling like half the bag out. I'm like, damn. And she did a little play off to, I think, what was it? The Gap girls from SNL. I don't know if you remember that with Chris Farley saying, I'm starving. He was like surprised from the people's hilarious. So I know she eats beef jerky. Tim, what about Mrs. Tackett?
No, she wouldn't eat beef jerky. But I mean, I know people that do. I like beef jerky. I like meat sticks, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, hey, give us the 2 chicks, 2 hot chick beef jerky.
So 2 chicks. And then if it's spicy, they call it the 2 hot chicks and it's pretty good. Like the beef is moist, it's flavorful. The spicy is an adequate amount of spice. And so I like it. I think I might actually keep buying it. And it's a women-owned brand. So, well, I feel a little bit less weird knowing that Dawn Burke also eats beef jerky. But man, I'm realizing I must just be a weirdo. Not very many of us eating it. But thank you for the package of beef jerky. It's going to go on the list of great gifts I've received. I've received beef jerky bouquets, boxes of beef jerky. This is awesome.
By the way, JLee, that's a great idea for somebody who's working remotely as part of your hybrid team.
Send them beef jerky.
No, they send you beef jerky.
Oh, they send me beef jerky.
Ding.
Yes, you know how to get on my positive side. Okay, guys. Well, that's it for another episode of HR Famous. It's been a wonderful time, and we will be back next week. I'm Jessica Lee, and for my friends Kristen and Tim Sackett, we're out.